Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about maps, but probably not the kind you're thinking of. We're going to explore the incredible ways we visualize everything from a massive long-gone empire to, well, the actual shape of time itself.
So let's kick things off with a little puzzle. On one side, I want you to picture the Russian Empire back in the 19th century. We're talking huge, sprawling, a world of czars, vast provinces, and just immense physical territory.
And then, on the other side, something way more out there. Imagine a calendar, but it's not a grid hanging on your wall. It's a snake. Yep, a snake-like calendar that just kind of winds its way through your mind's eye.
So, what on earth could these two things possibly have in common, right? A gigantic historical empire and this strange personal vision of time. How do you even begin to connect those dots?
Well, the answer is actually pretty amazing. They're both maps. One is a map of a real physical place, built from hard historical data. And the other? It's a map of something totally abstract, time, that's built right inside the human brain. Okay, so let's dig into that first one. We're talking about something called the Imperia Project. And it's this absolutely massive undertaking to create a digital map of the entire 19th century Russian Empire. A historian named Kelly O'Neill was behind this, and the way her team did it was just brilliant. Get this. They took 59 separate old-school provincial maps, scanned them all in, and then used this really cool technique called map warping to basically stretch and fit them onto modern coordinates. But they didn't stop there. They then linked all of that geography to a ton of rich historical information, creating a completely new way to see the past. And the final result isn't just some flat static picture. No way. It's a living, breathing map, a historical geographical information system, or GIS. It means that anyone, you, me, can just dive right in, play around with the data, and start asking questions about the Russian Empire that maybe no one's even thought to ask before. Okay, so that's our map of space. Now, let's do a complete 180. We're going to shift from that super concrete external map to an internal one, a map of something we can't even see or touch, time itself. So imagine you're at a lecture, and the speaker, a cognitive scientist named Dr. Mary Jane Spiller, asks the audience this question. Now, for most of us, that's a pretty strange question, right? But for some people in that room, it was perfectly normal, and they had a very specific visual answer ready to go.
And the answers to that one question open up this whole fascinating world of neurology, because it turns out that some people literally have a visual map of the calendar year built right into their brains. This whole phenomenon has a name: synaesthesia. You might have even heard of it. It's basically when your senses get their wires crossed. So for some people, it means seeing colors when they hear music, or maybe numbers have specific personalities. And in this case, it's the ability to see a totally abstract concept, like time, as a physical shape in space. For example, one woman at that lecture described her year as a snake-like line of months stretching out in front of her. But for others, it's more like a closed loop, kind of like the Ouroboros, that ancient symbol of a snake eating its own tail, representing an endless repeating cycle. And here's the part that might just blow your mind. This isn't some super rare thing that only happens to a few people. Dr. Spiller notes that it's estimated that around 1 in 4 people experience some form of synaesthesia. It's not a disorder, it's just a fundamentally different way of experiencing the world. So if a quarter of us might have these unique internal maps, what about everybody else? How do we visualize something as abstract as the passage of a year? Well, one of the synaesthetes at the lecture had a pretty memorable, and let's be honest, very funny tongue-in-cheek way of describing those who don't experience the world quite like they do. The speaker then turned the question back to the rest of the audience. Okay, so if you don't have a built-in mental snake or a loop for your calendar, what does time look like to you? For many of us in the modern world, the answer is, well, it's this. Our mental map of time has been outsourced. We don't have an internal snake, we have an internal image of our digital calendar, a grid of weeks and little blocks of meetings. Technology has literally changed the way we think about time. But the author of our source material offers a totally different perspective. For her, time isn't a rigid grid or a snake. It's something much more fluid and subjective, kind of like those iconic melting clocks in Salvador Dali's surrealist masterpiece. And this gets to a really crucial point. Our standardized clock-based time isn't some law of nature. It's a social construct. It was largely invented in the industrial era to make the trains run on time, and while it simplified the world in some ways, it also forced a very rigid conformity on how we experience our lives. It's why we feel that constant pressure of the ticking clock.
All right, let's bring it all back home. It's time to finally connect that Russian Empire with the calendar that might be inside your head.
What we've looked at today are two fundamentally different types of maps. The Imperia project is an external, shared map built from objective data that we can all see and agree on. The synaesthete's calendar, though, is an internal, personal map built from the unique wiring of an individual's brain.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the whole idea. Whether we're using historical data to understand a society or our own internal intuition to organize our lives, we are all constantly creating maps to help us navigate and make sense of reality.
Which leaves us with one final question for you. Take a moment and really consider it. Is your map of time a digital grid from your phone? Is it a fluid, melting clock? Or maybe, just maybe, is there a snake-like calendar winding its way through your own mind?